Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of InPodSicated with Big Z. I am your host, Big Z, and it's been a couple weeks since we posted an episode, but you're going to love this brand new episode with Charlie Wilson, the comedian. He's been in New York, he's been in LA, he's been in Chicago, Dallas. Wonderful comedian. I just saw him a couple weeks ago at a Mikey O show over there at Joe's on Wheat Street. If you're familiar with Chicagoland area, Joe's on Wheat Street is a mecca for comedians there. And we talked about how he got into comedy, where he started, how he puts his bits together. We talked a little bit about everything, when it comes to comedy. His kind of his Mount Rushmore. We kind of touched on that. Who would he take on the tour with him? We definitely talked about how to deal with his crowds, the difference between New York, Chicago, and LA, and how he's liking his life in Chicago. I know he's in LA right now, going over there to the Comedy Store, but he's well versed and well traveled. And all right, sit down, strap it down, and enjoy as we get InPodSicated with Charlie Wilson. Welcome back to another episode of InPodSicated. This week, our guest is comedian Charlie Wilson. Welcome, brother. How are you, sir? Oh, I got the button for you. Want the
Hey, man, I'm well, man. Doing really well, man. Thanks for taking the time, bro.
No, man. So we met through Mikey O at one of his shows for Gwen La Roca, and you were hosting, and you were killing it, bro. And I'm like, I gotta have him on the podcast. So thanks for coming on. Really is, I love talking to comedians because they're quick-witted, right? You can have any type of conversation with a comedian because they're a chameleon, essentially. They can do anything. They can host, they can be on a battle roast. They can do, they can be on TV and have a sitcom. They're so multiverse that it's not surprising when you see them make the transition from being a comic to being on a sitcom to being in movies. It's such an easy transition. Is that one of the, is that the end game for you to be, in that kind of notoriety?
Yeah, for sure. I think I actually just signed up for some coaching sessions, and I had my first one today, and that was one of the things that we kind of talked about. Is like the long-term goal, which also is going to play a part in whether I stay in Chicago or I come back to LA. So
Right.
I've got a lot to think about, but TV film is where I'd like to transition to. That's just long-term. Financial benefits. There's you leave more of a legacy behind with your work, being able to make that crossover. So that's definitely the next the next goal for me.
Right. So let's start at the beginning, right? We start at the beginning of your career. So tell me how you got into comedy. Like what was your first gig like?
Yeah. So I moved from Shreveport, Louisiana, my hometown, to Dallas, Texas. When I was like 18, I was like a theater kid. I was very involved in my church, so I would do like little stage plays and school plays and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And once I kind of found my confidence and humor, it helped me bridge the gap and just kind of become cool with a lot of people at school. So when I moved to Dallas, there was like a couple of theater productions going on that were local. This was kind of during the time where Tyler Perry was doing his stage plays, and he was starting to build up a lot of success. So a lot of other people started creating these, theater productions. So anyway, I did a couple of those. One of the directors at that show was like, "Hey, bro, like, have you ever tried comedy? You should try it," because he did stand up. Florida P, shout out to Florida P is his name, and I ended up moving to New York City. Maybe a month or two after that play and that whole situation happened.
Wow.
And when I moved to New York, I was like, man, it's a brand new place, so many opportunities. I don't know anybody in New York. So even if I suck ass, I don't know anybody here. Nobody knows me. Let me just give this a shot. So I went to an open mic, Lower East Side Manhattan. They did like poetry and stuff like that. I went and just did some comedy. Just got like 5 minutes, $5, 5 minutes. And it just got a lot of good feedback. The owner shook my hand. Was like, "Hey, bro, like, how long you been doing this?" And needless to say, I came back, the following week, and just continued to kind of fall in love with it and build traction. And within months of that, I'm opening up for like a lot of comics I saw on TV growing up. And New York City is a place where it was a lot going on. So it just put my ambition to the test. You know what I mean?
100%. But I want to know what was your first set? What do you
I
If you
think it was
remember your
about
first set, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was probably about being married. I was married for a long time. We split during the pandemic, but that was my life. Married, being married, I was a husband. Uh, and also kind of talked about being new to New York, just kind of some of the differences. It's cold as hell out here, y'all. Just kind of my delivery. I think this kind of worked, because I
Okay.
didn't have like the best joke writing. It was all personal observation,
Hmm.
relationship experience. And that was the thing with beginning comedy is there's no like how-to book. I
No,
take that
there's.
back. There are how-to books, but you're essentially writing your own and figuring out your own voice in your own way. So I just became comfortable exploring that and kind of having fun with that and applying what I'm learning to that and kind of slowly start building this canvas, over time.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you because there's different types of comics. There's observational comedy, and then there's guys who tell great stories that you have a bunch of callbacks to, and then you have your
Right.
punchline, the punchline guys. Like, there's a lot of different ways of doing comedy. There's, like you said, there's no one direction, no how to. It's going to be based on your personality. You have to be yourself. You can't be someone else. And
Right.
then, with that being said, who were who were some comics that you were like, okay, yeah, I like this guy, I really like this guy, I kind of want to pattern myself on his kind of sets, or
Yeah.
her sets, who were those people? Who were your
My younger influences were probably Martin Lawrence. I was a big Martin Lawrence fan. I love what he did on film,
Mhm.
with his TV show. How he still seems so naturally himself, but that
Right.
transcended just very very well. Eddie Murphy. I saw a lot of Eddie Murphy as a kid growing up. I'm a seeing him, just kind of cross over into the Nutty Professor and all these characters. Marlon Wayans. I saw a lot of my goofiness and silliness in his personality too. And I was like, wow, look at all these different variations of, men that look like me and how they're becoming
Mhm.
successful at that. Stand-up comedy wise, definitely a big Bernie Mac fan who he's from Chicago.
Yes,
So
sir.
he came out hard. He was just himself. I don't give a fuck. Bernie Mac he was just himself. He didn't look like he was on stage being anybody else. And you couldn't even, question that. So, those are probably some of my earlier, influences. And then obviously throughout my career, seeing people like Kevin Hart just, take off and do so many different things with the industry. There's a lot of influence and a lot of success that look very non-traditional, than what it looked like, 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah, and it's funny that you bring up all those comics because all of those comics ended up getting a TV series.
Right.
Marlon Wayans was on the Wayans Brothers. You got Bernie Mac, the Bernie Mac Show. Like,
Yeah.
all those guys had their own shows because of their comedy and the way they were. Martin was one of the biggest hits in the '90s. Like, that show still stands up. You can put that on right now, and
Oh yeah.
every joke still smacks.
Oh
And
yeah.
so that's exactly what I when I look at comics, I'm like, okay, what are they doing? What kind of set are they doing? Okay, cool. They're being themselves. They're being observational. They're working the crowd a little bit, and you can see when a comic struggles. And there's
Hmm.
comics that you can like, all right, he's been doing this for a while. He can transition very well, and then
Hmm.
he'll give you a call, or her will give a call back, and so forth. So,
Yeah.
like, you look for those things, and like you said, you just did it at a open mic, and you're like, all right, well, this is pretty good. I'm going to keep trying it over and over.
Yeah.
Um, how much, how do you like, because you're doing observational comedy was what I saw a little bit, but how do you distinguish the line? Like, where's the line with an audience? Like, how do you test that line? Because every audience is going to be different.
Right.
You can go to, open mic today and an open mic tomorrow is a completely different audience. And
Right.
then you look at demographics, right? If you are in New York versus if you're in Texas, the demographics are going to be different. So how do you know when to test? Where's the line?
I think you create that line every time you get on stage. It's
Mhm.
like walking into a room of people you're just naturally introducing yourself to.
Mhm.
It could be like the break room at a new job. It's full of people. These are people you got to fuck with for a little while. Do I just want to give them the hey, what's up, man? Hey, nice to meet you. All right, cool. Yeah,
Right.
nice to meet y'all. And then mind my business, or do I
Mhm.
want to, kind of vocalize? Yeah, yeah, I just moved here. I just came from here. So I think you can kind of make that decision every time you get on stage. But I think as an artist, as a comedian, you're the driver. They're in my house. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So I'm in
Mhm.
control.
Yeah.
So that's something you can't really be scared to do. You can't. You have to be kind of fearless in a sense. It's like I don't care what you got going on. If my sense of humor is for you or not, like I'm here. hop on board, and I want to make
Right.
sure you have a good time while you hop on board. I'm gonna show you why you shouldn't have doubted hopping on board. Come on, it's fun over here. so, so you've got to really, because starting comedy in New York, there's a lot of bar shows, and those people didn't know they were even coming to a comedy show. Sometimes
Right.
they're talking, they're having the conversation, and who's this guy on stage? I never heard this fuck. Who's the fuck is this guy? So sometimes that involved a lot of crowd work. You had to be
Yeah.
creative. You had to be very witty about how you got these people's attention that don't know who you are, don't give a shit about who you are, but still inviting them into your world, and them wanting to cross over into it.
Have you ever crossed the line and were like, oh, I gotta walk that back?
I don't really walk anything back. I don't think anything's been too crazy, but as a comic, you again kind of have to use your wit to kind of get out of some situations because you go to some places in New York like the Bronx, you in Queens, some of these rooms can be a little rough. You start talking shit, it's like, oh, okay, y'all ain't got to pay attention, don't worry about it. And then somebody says so, it's like, all right, man, it's cool. I don't want no problems. I don't want no problems. And you just have to comedically walk yourself out of the situation. Be like, oh, he sounded real, man. You having a bad day, fam? So you have to know how much to
Yes.
poke at someone because you don't know what somebody else is going through either. As a
Right.
comedian, you have to be responsible for what comes out of here too, because as we see in recent news, some people will get their ass up and try you, you know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
100%.
And hop on stage and try to take the mic or call you out. So you got to be prepared to stand. How do young folks say? Stand on business.
Stand on business. That's right.
You got to be prepared to stand on what you're talking about. So you have to make that decision every time you get on stage, and you
Mhm.
embrace these people, and they embrace you. How much do I want to push them, and how uncomfortable do I want them to be? How safe and how good do we feel like we're connecting right now? You know what I'm saying? It's like
Yeah.
a date when you go out with somebody. It's like, man, how it's too soon for me to put my hand on her lap. It's way too soon. I just
Right.
hey, well, what's up? What y'all got? This is where I'm from. That's what I got going on. And then we get to that. Come here, come here. You kind of inch in a little bit. Come here. All right. So you have to be smooth, bro. It's the same thing. It's gotta be smooth transition, smooth delivery. You gotta feel comfortable. And then at least that's my approach. Some comedians don't give a fuck. They just be out here doing
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. I've seen them on TikTok. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And some comedians just do that. They do that just to try to get internet famous. I'm gonna do something wild that is gonna get a bunch of views, and maybe they'll come to my show after that.
Right.
That's shooting. That's just putting a blindfold on and throwing a dart, see if you hit bullseye. That's 1 in a million chance.
Yeah.
Um, how do you put your sets together? Like, if you go to the comedy store and they say, you know what, you've got 7 minutes. How do you put together a 7-minute set?
Yeah, that's a really good question actually, because every comedian I think kind of has this, this Bible maybe you can call it, or this piece of art, this canvas of their shit. It's kind of like a knife gallery. You can kind of pick out which tools you want to use when it's time to go to war. What do you want? And every show was a little different, so you got to figure out. Oh, okay, I'm gonna get the 9 milli. I'm gonna get this little knife here. I'm gonna get a little pepper spray, and it's time to go to war. How big is this crowd? Oh, okay, 30, 40 people. Cool. I got 5 minutes. Cool. I'm gonna hit them like this, and I'm gonna hit them like that, and then bow. So, every comic kind of has their 10-minute set, but can you tighten it 10 to 7? You know what I mean? And that's kind of your
Mhm.
standard go-to set.
Yeah.
So managing that time properly to know, hey, you know what, I probably just need to cover X, Y, Z and get out of there. But sometimes X or Y takes so long, it's like shit, now it's time to go. How are you getting out of these situations? You sometimes
Yes.
back yourself in terms of time management, but that's definitely just something that's acquired over time and experience.
Right. And I'm assuming that you manipulate your joke. So you have your
Right,
set, and you may move one joke, from the top to the middle or to the
right,
bottom. And,
right.
and obviously you still have to make it flow in a format. So I think that's very difficult.
That's the hard part, right?
That is, I think that's very the hard part. To just so my day job is I'm a teacher. So
Oh,
I,
cool.
I'm literally on stage with the red light on, the camera's on every period as I'm
Right,
teaching. You know, the kids don't care if I'm having a bad day at home.
right.
I have to
You
come
got to
correct.
deliver.
I'm coming in, I come in with my energy. I'm joking with all the kids. If I can, if I build a trust with them, then I do play sports with them. But it's like, all right, cool. Me and you are not cool. All right, cool. I'll keep it pushing. I won't bother you. And I'm like, hey, you know what? Tomorrow we'll talk again. And I don't really push, like you said, I was talking about, the line. You don't
Right.
know what they're going through, right? And maybe they may not be wanting to know to share that with you, and that's cool. And then you have other students that like they want to share their whole world with you, and they
Right.
trust you right away. So it's like again, it's inching to knowing your audience little by little, and then once you have
100%.
it in, yeah,
I think that's a pretty cool comparison too, because as a teacher, you have a responsibility to put out, good information, to instill knowledge, to instill those things. Even if you're reaching 70% of the room or 20% of
hmm
the room,
yeah,
you still gotta like do your best to touch and to vocalize what you're doing. So it's the same way with comedy. Like you're not necessarily gonna take over the whole room like Chappelle will when he walks in and people are just you got all of their attention. Everyone loves who you are, but
right,
you gotta pull up like you're about to. You know what I mean? You gotta be
hmm
prepared to take over the room as much as you can.
yeah, and I just like it clicked because like every class I have what 30 to 50 students. I got six periods. That's that's
Right.
like a good 300 kids, and it's like I gotta be on. I kind of feel like that, like I'm either acting or I'm on stage. And it's if I crack a joke and I get two kids to laugh, I'm like, yes,
Right, right.
got
Sport
it.
and kids are not easy to make laugh either, bro.
uh,
I started teaching a little bit in Chicago as well, bro. I do like after school programs, so like STEM
okay,
instruction.
okay.
So we pull up and do like an hour workshop, and I'm like, all right, this was already a lot, so I already know full time teacher all day long. It's definitely something that you got to be tapped into, and
There's definitely good
definitely.
material coming out of there, though.
Oh, you do? Yeah, I'm already collecting a little bit as I go for sure. Because I still have to build my lesson and what am I going to cover, and when I
Yeah,
have the time, I got to make the most of it because I'm out of there after that, and I want to feel like we did learn something, right? So what did we learn?
yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah, I very much equated to the same thing. You got to watch your time. You got people
yeah.
watching you. It's a lot of similarities. Um, what's the funniest thing that's happened to you off stage? Like at
Ooh.
what?
Oh,
Because I
the
know
first
stuff
thing.
gets wild to certain places, and then certain places, stuff gets a little hairy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So the first story that comes to mind is the worst edible experience of my life. So check this out. So I'm doing comedy in New York. I'm producing my own shows. So I'm getting to meet a lot of comedians in New York, and a lot of comics will travel into New York that are from somewhere else. Oh, you from LA? Cool, cool, cool. So
Right.
I booked shows and booked comics. So all that was cool. So I went to LA because I went and booked a show at this club called Flappers out here in Burbank. And so now I'm like, man, I'm crawling across the country. I'm finna go to Flappers now and do a show. It felt really good. Uh, that week, that show is over with, and I get invited to this like Hollywood party, and
Oh,
it looks like a typical Hollywood like kind of like a cool rap party like you would imagine. I get
right.
there, and it's the first time I've been to some shit like this. And everybody's got like swimwear and there's kind of like chill wear, smoking. The music's good.
Mhm.
There's a pool in the backyard with the little, the little flamingo floaty. I was like, oh, I've seen these on Instagram. Okay, okay, this is where we at. And the girl that invited me, she's like, hey, you having a good time? You need anything? And I was like, no, everything's cool. I gotta go to the airport. So she was like, oh, before you leave, here, take one of these edible s'mores, bro. It's just s'mores. So it's like chocolate, graham cracker, or marshmallow. It was like on a
Oh
cute
man.
like a little stick or whatever, kind of like a
Yeah.
little skewer.
Skewer.
And
Yeah.
I gotta get to the airport. I'm also hungry now because I've been smoking, right? So now I got
Yeah.
the munchies. I get to LAX and I'm like, I'm a little nervous now because I'm like, can I travel with this, you know, back on the plane, or is this an edible? Are the dog's gonna come? When you high, everything comes in
Yeah.
your head. I'm like, man, the dogs are gonna get me. I know they smell this through this marshmallow. So I'm getting ready to just throw it in the trash. And I was like, I'll just take a bite out of it and then trash it, and I'll just fall asleep on the plane. It'll be
Right.
a breeze. So I take a bite of this s'more, and it's fucking delicious, and I'm hungry, and I haven't eaten anything. So I'll take another bite. And you know how you kind of stand over the trash, like I'm about to throw
Yeah.
it away, but you still eating the shit.
You like try not to make a mess, but man, this tastes too good. I'm gonna keep eating.
Yeah. So I took a lot of bites of it and threw it in the trash, and get through TSA, get on the plane. Everything is cool so far. I'm like, wow, I'm about to knock out. It's a red eye flight back to New York.
Hmm.
So we're about halfway through this flight, bro. And I'm in the middle seat, which sucks already. or maybe I was in the window. Either way, the person next to me gets up and goes to the bathroom. It's probably 1 a.m. The plane is
Mhm.
quiet. Everybody's resting. And when I saw the person next to me go to the bathroom, I was like, oh, fuck it. Perfect. I'll get up and go pee too. So I fucking get up out of the seat and I fucking fall and hit the floor of the plane. And I'm lightheaded, fucking dizzy. And the flight attendants are coming over. Sir, are you okay, sir? I said, I don't know. I need some water. So I'm drinking water. Now my stomach is kind of hurting and bubbling and shit a little bit. I was like,
Uh-oh.
what the fuck was that? Chocolate I had? I was like, ah. So I go to the bathroom and I gotta take a shit in this bathroom now. So now I'm on the toilet, like, dizzy, feeling just like horrible. I go back in my seat, bro, and it just seems like the longest 2 hours to like land from there. And I'm just like, never again. You know when your stomach hurts and you gotta lift your shirt up and rub your stomach and shit? Yeah.
You trying to self-soothe?
Yeah, I was so soothing, bro. So I was just like, fuck these edibles, Charlie. You should have known. You should have known. This is why you just smoke. You can balance it out. You put, all right,
Right.
I'm good.
Right.
So that's the worst. That's the story that comes to mind. Non-comedy related.
No, no,
Exhibit.
that's actually. Do you put that into your set?
No, never talked about it on stage.
Oh, come on, that's got to go in there, man.
I know, I know. I just don't know where the punch is. Where do I go to after the story? It's like, all right, I just told you what happened. Ta-da! That's it. End of story. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah, you got to massage it a bit. You got to
Yeah,
massage
I've
it a
got to
little bit.
massage and figure out. But I know how I could implement it. I have the joke. I may have did it at Mikey L show where I was like, you end up saying, now see this why. Like this is why I stay at the house. This is why I don't do shit. Now this is why.
Yeah,
So I can bring that part of it back at the end of that story. Now see this why, I don't fucking take edibles. I could just smoke. So yeah, I
yeah.
can
A
play
similar
with
thing
that.
happened to me. So I was working on my Jeep, and I was putting like the light system, the light bars, and whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm working on it. I'm in the my house is in the back, and I have the front yard, so I don't have a garage. So I'm in the alley doing it, and then I'm about like 15 minutes away from finishing it. Like I'm literally double checking, triple checking. All my wires are good, everything's tucked away, zip ties, making sure it looks clean. And my neighbor comes in, he's like, "Hey, you almost done?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Here, yeah, I bought a bunch of edibles." He's like, "This is
Oh shit.
some kind of starburst or whatever." I'm like, "Cool, whatever." I just ripped it and popped it. I didn't even look at how much it was.
Damn. Didn't check the dosage.
When I tell you that as soon as I slammed that hood and put it, man, that thing hit. I think it was like
Word.
30 milligrams, and I'm not. That's not my thing. I'll do it once in a
Right.
while, and I'm literally parked on the alley at my house. The door is like right here.
Right.
I couldn't reverse. My brain was like, no,
Wow.
I can't do this. I can't. I had to drive around at like at 5 miles an hour all the way around the block. Then I got home. I'm like, oh my god, I feel like my feet are in 2 buckets of cement. I can't
Right.
move. And
Right.
I knocked out for like 6 hours, woke up, I was still messed up. And I'm like, nope. I slept another 2 hours. Then I had the munchies when I woke up. I'm like, all right, time to go to McDonald's and Max, get a
Right.
bunch of stuff. But I'm like, bro, what did you give me? He's like, dude, I gave you the gummy. It's 30 milligrams. You didn't read it. He's like, you're just supposed to take a bite. I'm like, okay. It looks
Right.
like a starburst. I'm thinking
Right.
it's just a candy. I'm just gonna pop it
Right.
in.
Who
It
takes a
shouldn't be
bite of
too
a
much.
Starburst?
Right, right. Who takes a bite out of starburst? Right.
Wow.
Um, I know we talked about people being offended. We talked about off stage stuff. We talked about how you set up your stuff, which is pretty cool. Um, but if you can put that, let's say you put that all together and you're touring nationwide, and I said, hey, you can bring 3 comedians with you. Who are those 3 comedians? Living or dead? Who are those
Ooh.
3 comedians?
Ooh.
Mm-hmm. And then how do you line them up? Who's
Well,
opening? Who's closing?
all right. So I'd probably have Mike Epps hosting just because I'm a Mike Epps fan. And I know he's
Yeah.
going to bring the energy. It's going to be
Uh
turned
huh.
up. Um, I would have somebody like, oh, man. Because I still got to follow all of these guys, too. You know what I'm saying? So you got to think about it like that, too. You got to think about that, too. Um, Man, that's a really good one here because you're thinking about your homies. I'm thinking about. I would probably have somebody like there's a comedian actually out of Detroit. He's super funny, man. Howie Bell. He's kind of an underrated comic that's been out here doing it, but I'm a fan of his. He's funny. I just like to watch him perform. Now I'm
Hmm.
just thinking about people that I like to see perform. Uh, and then I would go with somebody like let me think, female comedian. There's a female comic in LA that I like a lot. Kanisha Bus is funny. Um, Brandy Denise, she's a funny. I would definitely have a female in that second spot.
Okay.
One of these young fiery women that are out here killing it for sure. I know a ton of them. And then I would come right out after that. That would kind of be my lineup. Uh, but yeah, being on the LA scene too, man. There's like just some really good talents that come in and out of here, and you see on stage. So it's like, yeah, you get to experience a lot of comedians that a lot of people don't even know exist, but they,
Hmm.
beast. Like Tony Baker out here is just somebody I'm a fan of that just tears up the stage and shit. But it's, funny cat. But following all these people too, you got to be ready. That's why
Yeah.
you got to be ready. You know what I mean?
So like if like you have that lineup, obviously you've got to have conversation with the other comics on what the material is because you don't want to step on each other's toes on trying to cover the same thing or a similar joke. Is that correct?
It happens like that. Nah.
Well, you just got you. I'm going up first, and I'm just gonna
You're going up
do what I
first. You
do.
got you got five. You got 10 minutes. All right, you're gonna do your thing. You got 10 minutes. All right, cool. I'm coming right behind you, host, comic, and then me. Usually, if I'm filming, if I'm doing like my time or 45 minutes, an hour, then there's gonna be a host, a feature, and then myself.
Hmm.
So who the host is, it's gonna make sure the energy is good, and then I put that feature in between. Or that's when I'll get a young lady. Uh, and then I come out right behind that and kind of do my time. So you're gonna have to set that up the right way. That's why a lot of these comics will have a couple of feature acts. Sometimes I know a couple of people that's out on the Cat Williams tour. Monique is touring. So yeah, there's some cool comics. DL Hughley that still have good openers and stuff that
Yeah,
will have
Dio
that
Dio's been
opportunity.
here a lot, and one of the girls that I know, she opens for him. Yeah, I guess she's a
Yeah, just
feature. Right?
now.
Just then, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
So yeah, I haven't caught her live yet, but she's still.
oh,
I mean, if
she's
you're
good.
hanging out with Dio Hughley, you must be
Yeah,
doing something right.
yeah,
Uh,
she's funny for sure.
so like, yeah, that was one of my concerns. Is like if if I go up there and I do my 7 minutes, and then you follow me, and it's like let's say I did a similar joke. It's like, and you were like, man, I wanted to do that joke really bad. Does that bother you, or do you kind of just pivot and just
You
don't
have to
use
you have to
it?
be ready to think on your head. So remember we were talking before like how you picking your tools so that you're gonna assassin. If
Yeah.
somebody now is talking about pregnancy, whatever kind of thing that happens, like oh shit, all right, let me put that back, and I'm now
Hmm.
going to do this, and you gotta make that last minute judgment call, or you gotta be like, you know what, my joke is still talking about pregnancy, stress, but my shit's a little different. I'm just gonna piggyback off of that, and then it's kind of like, oh yeah, man, y'all heard Cat out here talking about pregnancy. Well, yeah, the shit is crazy. So
Yeah.
back on remember my situation. So now you
Right.
still have acknowledged it, but now you're talking about your experience. You don't have to necessarily deviate from the whole situation. Embrace it. They've already kind of
Mhm.
set the tone and made them comfortable with the subject. Now, can you one up that? You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Can you make that joke bigger? Can you make it more extravagant? Can you
exactly.
exactly? Yeah. Then that's you know.
Or are the people going to be bored now? It's like, okay, we heard that. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Good try. Good try. Yeah.
Right.
Uh, right now, it's comedy is really really hot right now. How do you manage doing your social media and try to incorporate some of your routine into there? Um, because I'm assuming you're running still your own social media stuff right now.
Oh yeah.
But
Oh yeah.
how much tedious work is that, and like, what are you trying to present on your social media?
Yeah, man, that's a good question too. Honestly, yeah, I'm kind of doing my own social media, which is why it is what it is. I've gotten to a place of comfort, a place of just doing what feels natural, doing what feels right, doing what I can, make the time of. I'm So I engage with the audience and the fans and the people that I already have. I'm not
Mhm.
doing as much work in building a brand new base. I'm not popping off reels and sketches and all this stuff that has attracted a new base. But I'm pretty consistent on keeping my stories up to date as far as my experiences and my day to day life. What shows I have coming up. So all those people that are on board are on board. But in terms of expanding and developing more content and making more content, I know I can do better in those places, but I'm just
It,
going
it,
to kind of take it one day at a time and get to it when I can, or wait till I'm in a position to be like, all right, I need somebody to just edit these videos for me. Can you just. So I'll get there, but for now, I'm just embracing the process and doing what feels good because I am currently kind of wearing a lot of hats in terms of doing a few more things outside of just stand-up comedy. So I'm giving
mm.
myself some grace there so that I can show up in these other spaces too.
Do you feel like social media has helped you in your career as a comedian, or is it just like it's whatever?
Not as much as it's helped other people.
Uh huh.
I think for me, it's helped tie a lot of weaving. It's a large part of what I do because it helps me connect with my community, the people that I have met. There are people that I met in New York years ago that still will. Hey, Charlie, what's up, man? Hey, hey, hey. From those seeds planted so long ago, so social media helps tie those relationships and those bonds together, and it's easy
Hmm.
to just from there, oh, you in town, and to go back and water
Right.
those seeds some more and build some
Mhm.
relationships based off of those seeds planted. So for me, it's really been in the connections and watering the flowers that have been planted. But obviously, to be successful with social media as it is as a tool, you be expounding and growing, your base whenever you're ready to be intentional and start doing the things that'll get you to that place. But
Right.
just
Excuse me. You were talking about that. You're doing other things besides comedy. So if you weren't
yeah.
doing comedy, what would you be doing?
Yeah, yeah, but yeah, on that, I'll take it, one day at a time, un día a la vez. So I
Un día a la
slow,
vez.
slow,
That's
slow it all
right.
the way down and take a lot of that pressure off of myself, because for most of my life, most of my adult life, I was in sales in the corporate business. I was in the car business for a large part of my career. Volkswagen, Lexus business. I was in the Range Rover business for some years. I work with people with handicaps and disabilities. I did wheelchair accessible vans and adaptive
Yeah.
driving equipment.
Right.
A little bit of real estate when I lived in New York, doing apartments and stuff like that. Sold motorcycles, timeshare. So, bro, like a lot of different things. So now, within the past 2 years, I've been fortunate and blessed to be able to do, more things that come naturally to me without, putting on a suit or going to go to the office and have these systems that were in place for a large part of my life. So now
Mhm.
I kind of operate out of a huge just place of gratitude to be in the space creatively to try to sustain, life from there. It's a bit more challenging. It's a lot more work. You got a budget, you got to wait, you're waiting on checks, you're trying to line more
Mhm.
stuff up. But, it's the coolest period of my life, I think, and just being able to, um, put my hands on some of these cool things that fulfill me, like all the other jobs just couldn't come close to.
No, no, you're doing the job to supply and feed your dream. And that's what it
Right.
was. Yeah,
Right.
and
Right.
sometimes it has to be that way. Sometimes you got to take it slow and, like I said, one day at a time and $1 at a time to put into your dreams. And you know what? Just don't keep moving forward. You're already in the ocean. Just keep swimming. You know,
Right.
there's no reason to go back. So, um, in your opinion, what is the best city for comedy?
Uh, I must say, Chicago has been blowing my mind in terms of not just the city, not just the city, but hold on, bro. For whatever reason, my Netflix just
CD
started
turned on.
playing. Yeah, I know, right? But I've been really impressed with the Chicago. Starting in New York and spending years and doing in L.A. Chicago is a nice, kind of medium place to do comedy. I think there are benefits of being in L.A. that you don't necessarily get anywhere else, for sure. But as far as stand-up comedy, having cool environments to do it and to stay busy, Chicago's been amazing. I haven't returned to New York since I moved from there, probably 10 years ago. So it'll be exciting to tap back into that market. There's a lot of shows and a lot of work there too. But Chicago has a very digestible flow of like people and getting around the city, and having a good quality of life while doing comedy. So I think that's what separates Chicago from those other places, LA and New York, which are, a lot more populated, a lot more traffic, a lot more going on. It's a lot
Hmm.
more of a manageable, I think, quality of life working as a successful comedian in Chicago. And I'm making this observation of probably like 5, 6 months of doing comedy and,
Right.
seriously
And that's why
there.
I asked. I know because you've done both coasts and both are known for their comedy spots, right? The comedy store and then the cellar. And there's
Right.
a lot of those places that have notoriety. So
Right.
like Chicago, it's like, all right, well, we have the comedy store or whatever. I think the comedy store, right? Or something like that.
Yep, yep. The comedy store. There's an improv too that's on the
The
outskirts a little
improv,
bit.
right? Yeah.
Yeah,
And then like
but
we Chicago's been known for breeding a lot of good comics. We got
right.
Tina Fey and Steve Carell and
Yeah,
Belushi and all those guys that came through Second City. That's right there at
right.
North Avenue. So I've even taken a class. I took a class last summer for it was just improv, and it was
That's cool.
weird. It was weird at first because
Yeah,
like they give you the weirdest scenarios. Like you have to talk like a cat and relay this message. I'm like, I don't
right.
know how to do that, you
Right.
know but it's getting comfortable with being uncomfortable,
Exactly.
and don't take yourself so seriously, and that's
Right.
kind of the message that they want to get you to do.
100%.
And yeah, and they're like, okay, we'll come back for it's the second part of this question, I mean, second part of this class, and then third. And I get it. And I've even thought about, like, during the summer maybe taking a summer class on how to write comedy and stuff like that, just to do something different.
Yeah.
Either way, it'll help me in my teaching anyway, so I just feel like
100%.
yeah, and vice versa. So, like, so is it a lot easier to get gigs here in Chicago in the Midwest than it
Um,
is in the coast on both
I
coasts?
think I think yes and no. I think yes because L.A. and New York are filled with a lot of heavy hitters. Not to say that Chicago doesn't have them, but in terms of comics that can fill seats and that are on Netflix and that are on TV,
Mhm.
L.A. and New York is going to have those A, B list comics that are all over the place, right in your backyard. So coming to Chicago, if you've got some TV credits, TV experience, like which I have, then it makes it a little bit easier to get into some places to at least get the opportunities and to then start headlining and then proving yourself as a headliner to be able to come back. You still got to build the relationships with other comedy clubs in town. I haven't performed at the Improv yet in Chicago. I'd like to. I got to figure out who's booking it. How do I, submit? How do I get in there? So there's always
Right.
these new doors to walk into, but it's a lot easier to access those doors. In places that aren't New York, in LA, number one. But
I also feel like you might have a big, like, you might have like Chris just walk in and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna do 10 minutes, and then you're like, hey, those are my 10 minutes, and he's like, well, I can't do anything about it. That's Chris Rock.
yeah,
You're
that's
gonna get
gonna
bumped.
that's gonna happen in LA and New York for sure. You're gonna get bumped, here and there. You gotta be prepared. Comes with just the space and kind of moving around a little bit. But if you're fortunate enough to go up before they get to go up, maybe they'll get to see who you are, and now you make that impression too. So it can go both
Exactly.
ways.
Yeah, and you got to keep showing up every day because you never know what can happen. Who's going to see you? Who's watching? What producer from what show or what company is? There's always somebody watching, and then
Right.
every time is an opportunity for out there. But if uh, if you can share one joke or one bit, like a small bit out of your comedy that that this bit and this joke is gonna hit, what would that be?
Um, probably the quickest one or the quickest joke to say without like long builds up and storytelling is just kind of my bit about how fellas, we got to do a little bit better and presenting ourselves. Women, they are the best at taking photos. They got their booty on the sink. They know how to point their toes, arch their back. Their photos are gonna come out the best. You see a group of girls, it's a bomb ass photo regardless. Double tap every time. Well, guys, we like fucking. We don't put thought into shit. We take the pictures. We all look the same. I could take a picture with every guy in the room, every dude that's watching this video. We could all take a picture, and you know what the fuck is coming. You know what it's gonna look like.
The
We're gonna
pointing,
pose.
the
We,
piece,
we're gonna take that pose. I'm gonna hit you right here. Hey, what's up?
right?
Bow. And if they don't hit you at that one, they're gonna hit you at this one. One, two, three. And there's only one more pose that the dudes is gonna do. They're gonna stand up and hit you with this one right here. And it's gonna
Right.
just try to
I,
hit you with that
I
one right
don't.
there.
I don't look
So
interested. Pose right.
so I usually close that joke out by just saying, fellas, I'm gonna leave you with a little bit right here. Okay, this is a little tip from me. You know, if there's a little thing I leave you with, this is it. Okay, this is how we're gonna start taking pictures. All right, they'll never see this one coming. Y'all help me count down. 1, 2, 3. And I go, and I hit their ass with the 3. It's like ain't no peace. At least try and add a finger, switch it up in some way, and I'll just kind of zip it up with that one. But yeah, man, it's kind of these observational things. We all know this. We see the trend with guys in their photos and how
Oh
women
yeah.
do that, and then just kind of finding a way to kind of illustrate that. So that's a fun one I like doing. Surprisingly, when I find myself maybe running out of time, or if I'm finishing up one joke and now I get the light and it's like, all right, you got 2 minutes left. It's like, all right, shit. Well, what can I say in 2 minutes? I'll usually try to pull that one because I can kind of run through that one pretty quick and close it out pretty quick. And all right, y'all have a good night. And then boom, boom, man. Get on
Right.
out of there.
That's a good way to close. Right. What's the best piece of advice that you've gotten from a veteran comic?
I think it's something I probably heard. It's simple that I probably heard just over and over again. It's just you got to find your voice, your own voice, and kind of be comfortable within your own voice. Tell your story. You hear these things over and over again. It's about you. They need to know you. So the more vulnerable that I can be and comfortable with myself and my story, then the better I'm going to be able to connect with everybody that's around me. So that was probably just some early advice I got that just kind of stuck with me. Don't be afraid to live in my truth and kind of own who I am, because then nobody really can really say much about me. Hey, your stomach kind of fat, old fat ass, old thick ass boy. I'll be like, I know that. I know. Yeah, I just said that. So it's like, I'm gonna own it. Hey man, I heard you was a cheater. Cheater. Yeah, I've been there before. It's happened. I talk about that on stage. So it's just kind of owning everything that's about yourself. So just being comfortable with yourself, and then you'll know when you're really there as a comic when you start talking about it. Sometimes you're not ready to get to certain places, but when you are and it hits the stage, that's when you've truly kind of embraced it. You're okay talking about it. Same thing with like therapy, or you try to talk to a friend about something. When
Right.
you're comfortable sharing it with them, you've gotten to a better, more comfortable place where you're ready to start owning it and doing something about it and not letting it control you anymore.
Yeah, and I was literally what you were talking about. I'm like, it's like therapy. It's like I'm getting this off my chest. This is going to the audience, and I'm trying to do it in a funny way. But
Right.
essentially, it's therapy for me because I'm getting this off my chest, and after I say it, I'm done with it, and I'm just moving
Yeah.
on. And
Exactly.
it's really good to do that. Um, so I there's a couple of other things I wanted to ask you. Like, do you write every day? Like, do you have
Nah.
a journal? Do you write every day? Do you like
Nah.
you?
Nah.
Okay.
No.
You have a great memory. You remember all your bits.
So yeah, I have like a little like a file that I kind of keep my bits and my material in. So when something comes to me, I'm like, oh, you know what? Then I know where to record it. But it doesn't happen every day. As I'm going throughout life and life is just happening, and I feel impelled, then I'll just like, all right, let me jot that down, or I can finish this that way. Let me add on to that. So
Mhm.
as it happens, I'll do. But I'm not just sitting around. Let me think of some material today. That's rain. Rain. Everybody knows the rain. What the fuck am I doing? I don't know.
At that point, it's forced. That's how it feels.
Right.
Right? You're trying to force a
Right.
joke, rather like, oh man, a squirrel got hit by a bus.
Right.
Yeah, and he
I'll
left
see
his
it. Then I
nuts on
see
the
it
curb, right?
happen.
Yeah,
Right.
something stupid, right? So you
Right.
see it, and you're like, all right, cool, I can use that. Or
Right.
somebody says something to you like, this is the dumbest shit I've ever heard, and thank you very much.
Right.
Like now
Exactly.
you're gonna be part of the show. Thanks a lot.
Right.
Um, yeah, I think it's hard for comics. I really do think to find something that's funny. Um, I watch a lot of Seinfeld, Larry David. And I really think those two people are exactly the same person. Um,
Yeah.
just their comedy is just exactly the same. It's just observational comedy and just being
Right.
loud and outrageous.
Yeah.
Um,
One other thing too that
mhm.
I think is just major that sticks with me with this is I got to a place where I had to release my expectations, you know? So that's
Mhm.
just something for comedians or artists in general, or just people in general. I think allowing those expectations to kind of fall down a little bit, because a lot of times people will do stuff and it's like, all right, I'm gonna get 100,000 followers, or I'm gonna get $1 million, I'm gonna be on Netflix. It's like, all right, well, what happens 2 years later and you don't have any of those things?
Right.
You're gonna feel defeated. You're gonna feel like you're not winning. So do it because you're having fun. Do it because this is just something that's a part of your life. And chill with the expectations and what's meant for you and what you become intentional about. You can attract, but just have fun and just enjoy the ride. It's gonna be something you're gonna do for a long time, right? All
Hmm.
right, well, chill the fuck out and just have a good time and go on and get in the game. So very
Yeah,
much that's the flow.
yeah, I do see that. I mean, it's we're reaching 200 episodes with the sports podcast, and
Nice.
so there's thank you, and there's some people that started at the same time after, like a little bit probably after us, but they had, I looked at it and I was like, man, I feel really defeated because that they blew up so quickly. But then I
Right.
also looked, I'm like, okay, well, they had money backing them. They had, some kind of corporate money backing them. I'm like,
Mhm.
I'm spending money out of my own pocket to do everything I'm doing, to write, to produce, to promote, to buy new equipment, learn how to do equipment, learn how to edit
Right.
video, audio. Like, I've taught myself every aspect, and people go to school for this. And I'm like,
Right.
in 2 years, I learned how to do everything I know how to do by myself, and I've taught other people how to do it. And sometimes I have to take a step back and reflect. I'm like, 90% of podcasters never get past episode 7. We're
Right.
about to reach 200.
Right.
Um, I've
And
had
bro, you're 200 episodes better than a lot of the people that are out here doing this too. So that's another thing. Like as we're getting equipped with all these skills and we're learning all these things, it's like think about what else you could do with those skills, except
yes,
have the expectation of what you think you want with those skills. Think about what else you can do with them. So now it's like you got all these skills. You can start teaching work. So you can start teaching classes. You could take on an apprentice. You could work for a company now. You could get on at a radio station. You've got all of this experience that you can
yeah,
do a lot of shit with. So yeah,
right.
it's
It's multifaceted, learning all these things, and
right.
especially because we started right after the pandemic. Like, we're
Oh
during
yeah,
the pandemic. We started in May, and uh so schools were, they were doing through Zoom, so I'm literally using my equipment, and the kids are like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm using my podcast equipment to that's why it sounds good and looks good.
right.
That's why the Zoom works. And the kids were like, then they were intrigued, and I'm like, all right, cool, I'll bring my equipment, I'll walk you through it. This is how you use a mic, how to talk into a mic, stuff like that. And like you said, I've taught myself that I got to a point, and I just got to keep going forward and just enjoy the ride, and not think
Hell yeah.
about tomorrow. All right, before we finish out of here, can you tell the audience where they can find you on social media, and where will you be in the upcoming months?
Yeah, so definitely follow me at Charlie Wilson TV as shown. Where is it over here?
I
Yeah,
don't
as
see it.
shown right there. Yeah, follow me there. All of my shows will be posted there. I'm hosting an event here in LA on Saturday. That's gonna be a lot of fun. It's like a live game show. It's called Bingo Loco. So it's
Okay.
like bingo, but it's like a rave party. So that show is sold out, I believe. It's a lot of fun. I did host the one in Chicago too. That was really funny. I'm
Okay.
sorry, really fun. And then I'll be back. I got a show June the 1st in Chicago. But definitely follow my social media for all the shows I got going on and what I've got coming up next. And I appreciate you for having me, bro.
No, man, this has been a blast. Thank you for being in Podsicated with me, and we'll have you on. Towards the end of the season, till the end of the summer, because I'm dude. Chicago is the best summer city, so I want you to enjoy it.
For
The
sure.
street festivals I have already started, and you,
Yeah, I
you
know.
got to go to those. Tons of good food, tons of good times, tons of good music. So yeah, we'll catch up, and then hey, I know you don't know the whole city, so if you want to go eat, and I love to eat,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
go do that.
Definitely let me know, bro. If there's like something going on or we want to catch like a bite or something somewhere, fall into a nice little spot, I'm definitely down. I'm on the north side of town. So just hit me up.
Yeah, yeah, we'll do that. Wow, what an interview. What a great time with Charlie Wilson, comedian Charlie Wilson. So you got to follow him on Charlie Wilson TV on all the socials. Funny dude. You can find him all over the country, because right now he's in LA. He'll be back in Chicago in a couple weeks, and who knows from where. But this is a busy man who does a lot of funny stuff on stage, and you gotta follow him. I really enjoyed talking with him, and we'll have him back on, later on in the probably at the end of the summer. We'll see what he's doing, catching up with him at that point. But thank you for listening. This has been a 606 Media production. And you've been InPodSicated. So we'll see you next time for another great interview.